Well, shortly after my film City Island came out, I was looking to. I usually write my own movies, and I was looking to try to expand beyond that because you don't really feel like writing all that much after a while. Um, so I said, let me just try to find other people's scripts that I can maybe work on, and mostly what I was getting sent were these sort of tepid romantic comedy things, which it seemed like that's as far as anyone could see, me doing, which I found sort of depressing. And I've always loved, obviously, New York is a big part of my life and work, but I always loved true crime. And my agent said this producer, Bill Teitler, has a script about a real true crime story, which you've probably heard of. And so I read it, and I hadn't heard of it at all. I didn't really know Tommy and Rosie's story, which I kind of dug that because it became to me part of what I loved about it, which is that it was a major story for them. It actually was a really big story for the mob. At the end of the day, it was really like page 8 on in a few tabloids, and it went away. In that sense, it reminded me of the crime that the movie Dog Day Afternoon is based on.
Yeah,
that's a crime that was a big event for like 5 minutes, but it was a huge event for the people involved and for the guy who did it, and his motives were the same as they were very human. They were about love and money and need and not really being a good enough criminal to pull all that off, but having the audacity to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know about the true story either. And this brings up something I'm always curious about when a film deals with true events. Especially one like yours that, there's a lot of colors in there, but there's a lot of comedic possibilities that are explored in it as well. Is there ever a time when the truth of what actually happened kind of runs counter to what you want to achieve as a filmmaker?
Well, no, if I understand your question correctly, the thing about this that was so strange is that the truth, had we tried to invent any of it, it would have been too silly. The craziest things that happen in the movie all really happened. So no, I was delighted by all that. What we had to actually do that ran, where I suppose you could say the truth ran counter, was in a way we had to shape and control the mob element of the story. Tommy and Rosie's story is all there, what they did, who they were, who they worked for, why they did it. That's all just the truth, and it's amazing. I didn't have the room to show that how many social clubs they robbed, the complexity of like the various mob families who all wanted to claim the hit on them. That all happened. I wouldn't have room to do that. So in some senses, I guess to answer your question, we had to control some of the story and simplify it, but that all had to do with external things. It was the big stuff, the Tommy and Rosie stuff. That's all there, and yeah, it was all the truth.
So did you shoot in any of the actual locations that these events took place?
No, we shot in the closest things too, though. We were in social clubs. We were in their neighborhood. In fact, it was almost like spooky how close we were to everything, in Jamaica Avenue and Queens, and we were right there in the heart of it. But no, we weren't in actually any of the real social clubs.
So when you think about the kind of New York that you want to portray, you mentioned that you have a great love for the city. What was your motive in this one? When you collaborated with your DP, for instance, what did you want to build in terms of a look for this environment?
Well, it's funny. My DP, Chris Knorr, and I both were in New York in that time, so we both remembered what it was, and it doesn't bear a lot of similarities to New York now. It was a lot darker, it was a lot browner, it was a lot dirtier. It was just a garbagey kind of, it was dicey, and so we had a lot of fun, kind of, each pulling recollections out of our times in New York in the 80s and early 90s, and just looking at, along with our production designer Carlos Menendez, looking at photos. And also, you go on YouTube and search anything, and we would just go New York 1990, and all of a sudden people have put up home movie stuff. People have posted old video, and you look at the subway, and you look at like the graffiti that covered every subway car, and I'm like, oh, I remember that New York. It's not here anymore. I haven't seen it in years. But I think that that's one of the things I love about New York. I don't bemoan that it changes. I know a lot of people do, but I always think that that's part of its spirit is rejuvenation. So I can miss certain things about the past, but look, it can't still be that New York. It would be a wreck by now, you know.
Yeah.
So I liked bringing that to life in this. I liked finding a way to resurrect that mostly dead New York.
And the performances you got, the performers that you're working with, they're all so extraordinary. And I'm wondering how you happened upon Nina, because she is a real discovery for me, at least.
Yeah, I know, she's amazing. Well, she's a kind of phenomenon. She went very quickly from NYU to starring in Venus in Furs and winning the Tony, and I mean, she's very, very well known in New York theater. She'd been in a few movies, but in not a lead. So when we offered her this, on the one hand, I was thrilled and honored that she wanted to do it. On the other hand, you also have to say to the financing people, I know you may not have heard of her, but you will. And you don't want to be the person who says, oh, yeah, I turned down Meryl Streep for that part. It's because there are those people out there who've done it. So my producer and I were very, firm about saying this is the woman we want for it. We think she's, amazing, and you'll believe it when it's done, and you'll be happy later, So, but she's amazing. Yeah, she's a real force.
She's extraordinary in it. Yeah, but the whole cast. I mean, this has to be one of the great supporting casts that I've seen in a long, long time.
Oh, thank you.
Because you've got Andy Garcia and Ray Romano and Burt Young and Griffin Dunn is absolutely hysterical.
Isn't he great? I know.
Yeah,
I know.
I mean, it's so great.
He was I think Griffin as a comedian, like when he was starting out and was really a leading man. I mean, to me, he was as funny as Bill Murray. He was as funny as any of the and he's an interesting man, and he's chosen to do a lot of different things, aside from act. So he's had his career, but I've always loved him as a comedic actor. So I was thrilled when he said he wanted to do it because he really brought something special to it. Yeah.
I think so too. But when you're working with them and you're trying to find a tone, do you have them give you a variety of takes and tone it down, because you don't want the comedic element of it to kind of impede upon the reality of it, right?
Yeah, I guess I don't. What I've always just done though is like I've just approached it like we're telling the truth. And if the tone is it's an elusive thing. It's not something you can really talk about. It's sort of like talking about the space between the notes that are played. I think with good actors, they naturally understand if the material is strong. And you're confident with it. If you're not stretching for something that isn't there, if you play it straight, it will naturally be what it is. Those things go wrong when people intentionally think they have to try to be funny. But none of these guys did. And what I usually do is I don't really rehearse beforehand or anything with actors. I love talking with them about the character, about just sort of the vibe of what of what the movie's going to be, and then I love talking with them about their clothes because actors love their clothes. And if you can kind of get on the same mindset with them on clothing, a lot of it gets answered. A lot of the questions get answered through that.
So I want to know how you're feeling now, because you're a few days away from your film being unveiled and opening to the public. Is that thrilling or nerve-wracking? Are you calm about the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes.
All of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You always are trying to go, look, what is it that I wanted from this, so that you don't create unrealistic expectations. And you always want your film to be seen by as many people possible, A, because it's your movie, and B, because it makes it easier for you to do it again. Everyone, it's a very simple business. It's a banking business. It makes money. They throw more money back at you to do it again. And yet I just feel very, very, kind of privileged that we have an independent film that we went into making with a theatrical distributor. Right there, we're like ahead of the game. So many good movies get made and never make it to theaters at all anymore, or only do after years of struggle. Maybe I should back up even further and say it's amazing that movies like this are still playing in theaters. Because I do like movies to play in theaters. I like them as a group experience. So I guess what I'm getting at is there are many different things to be happy about already. Beyond so, I don't want to say that I'm living in a state of anxiety or fear. On the other hand, I'd be a hell of a lot happier if I woke up in a couple of weeks to a movie that had really good numbers than I would if everyone said, "Hey, that was nice. It's been there for a few weeks, and we'll see you on Netflix."
Well, I want to know though, if you look back at how you envisioned this film before you started rolling the cameras, and you look at the finished product now, does it meet all of your hopes for it?
Yeah, it actually exceeds them considerably, and I wouldn't necessarily say that about every film I've made, but I think part of that is because the way this film was created was a lot more on the go. It was something we were developing. We were writing it. We were in prep. We were rewriting. We would add actors. When Andy came in, he had his own ideas. I said, "Great, let's work on your character more." So it was really like a very fluid process right through, finishing the film. It was very much a big creative stew, I guess you would call it. So to have it all come out and for me to be this happy with it is, it's better than I'd hoped.